Hey, what's up, fellow gamers? Mike Shamborn from Cult Classic Neo here today, whenever you may be watching, to talk about this game called ELEX. Once again, if you haven't noticed by all the videos I've been doing on my channel, I'm very excited to play this particular experience. Really looking forward to it as a fan of Piranha Bytes games. Today, I want to focus on what I believe is possibly going to be the strongest narrative out of any of the Piranha Bytes games I've played. We're going to get into the factions that you'll see down here. So I'm going to do one episode per faction. Tonight we're going to be covering these Berserkers of Edan once I get through with the intro here. But if you've played Piranha Bytes games before, you know that their claim to fame is basically splitting the player off into separate factions where they can take on quests and, learn skills, learn abilities, get access to equipment, get access to people and trainers that can help them become a better version of themselves. My favorite part of role-playing games. And eventually, somewhere in the plot, something happens where the player is forced to choose one of these factions. So usually in the game, you can dabble around in the different factions just to see what you like, what is your taste. And then eventually the game forces you, like, okay, now is the climax. It's time for you to pick who you with and who are you going to support, because once you pick whoever you pick, you're going to be against the rest of them, and then eventually against whatever the bigger picture evil is that we are working to eradicate on the planet. So tonight we're going to focus on the Berserkers of Edan, but before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit about the overall narrative. Now, I have always felt that Piranha Bytes games have been somewhat parochial with the narrative, and I think that's because for a good reason, they have focused so heavily on making their experiences these big explorative adventures where the player is actually rewarded for going out into the world, exploring the world, and being a part of what's going on there, taking part in missions, taking part in quests, taking part in storyline, flesh outs, but also exploring the world, looking for treasure and killing monsters to level up. So this game, going back to an earlier video, is all about science fantasy. I'm all for it. I think this is something that's been a long time coming in the world of RPGs, and I think many RPGs have kind of danced around it, but never really gone as hardcore as I think ELEX is, and I'm very happy about that from a narrative perspective. But more specifically, this idea that this was a futuristic planet. And so I thought it was really weird that people are running around with swords, with all these robots and stuff, but this was a futuristic, prosperous planet that gets hit by a meteor. You know, the old cliche story where a planet that's thriving gets hit by a meteor. We have tons of movies about it. But in this particular case, it sets them back, however many hundreds, thousands, I don't know, years. But along with this meteor crashing, a new element is introduced called ELEX. And this is a precious, limited resource that arrived with the meteor, and it can power machines, open the door to magic, or re-sculpt life into new life forms. And those three things there that I just mentioned are really at the heart of the factions and what they choose to do. And notice there's only 3 there, but there's 4 factions. We'll get into that in a later video, why there's only 3 there, but there's 4 factions. But essentially, you're going to have to choose. Do you want to side with the mechanistic group? Do you want to side with the mage group, or do you really want to get down with the folks, I call them the hippies, that's who we're focusing on tonight, the Berserkers of Edan? And do you want to use ELEX to make the planet thrive from a natural perspective? Again, basically shunning the mechanistic folks, and I assume that's the Albs and Zakor, which we'll talk about in the next video. But these Berserkers of Edan, we want to basically take Magalan, which is the name of the planet, back to its roots, back to its natural roots before we invented all this technology. And, basically, I don't know, maybe the technology is responsible for the meteorite crash. Now, you all may have access to information that I don't, because I'm trying to be very sparing with what I consume, because I don't want certain things to be spoiled for me, which is really different. You guys have to understand, like, people who know me know I do not typically play role-playing games for the story. And I know that sounds insane, but I've always played role-playing games more for the sense of adventure and more for being able to progress a character and make the character, or make me, as strong as I can possibly be in the world. The story was always kind of just there and helped me stay focused on some type of parameters such that I can move around the world with some level of structure. But this story really has me intrigued, so I don't really want to spoil too much, which is rare. Usually people can tell me stuff and it's not a spoiler at all, and I usually don't care. But So the Berserkers of Eden are wiping the planet clean. The meteor has given the people of Magalan a chance. The world can be regrown. Remember going back to using ELEX to reshape life into a new form. Having found a way to transmute ELEX into pure mana or magic power, the Berserkers are transforming Magalan's shattered wastes into lush living woodland where the Albs bring destruction. And this is the Albs of Zakor. I'm going to imagine they're the mechanistic people. Think Final Fantasy X with the Machina versus the religious faction who were against the Machina, even though they were actually using the Machina for their own benefit, which I thought was really great from a storytelling perspective. But the Berserkers offer true hope, at least according to them. As magic replaces technology, Magalan shall offer all its people a future. Like, I'm really looking forward to playing as these dudes. And so another thing that I typically hate, not hate, but something I don't typically do because I'm pressed for time, I have a family, kids and all that, is play video games multiple times. Usually I like to get the whole experience in one sitting, get all the achievements, be able to do it without having to play the game twice. I don't know that I've ever played a Piranha Bytes game that didn't require at least 1.5 playthroughs. And even that 0.5, usually you were kind of tricking the system to get you the achievement that you were trying to get by doing something that the game didn't intend for you to do. But this time around, I'm actually looking at this like maybe I will do 4 walkthroughs on this. Because let's be clear, I'm going to be doing a full walkthrough of this game once it comes out. Like, I can't wait to play Berserkers of Eden. I can't wait to play ELEX. It's the game that's right up my alley. It's the game that I've been waiting for since, you know, The Witcher 3. And The Witcher 3 was the game I had been waiting for since Two Worlds. So think about that for a second. 2006 all the way to 2014 or 15, whenever The Witcher came out. I waited that long, 15. That's right, it got delayed. I waited basically 10 years to play another game that I loved as much as Two Worlds. And now I think ELEX is going to be that next step. And the Berserkers of Eden, like, look at this rustic dude off to the right here with his sword and old shield. And he's in this lush. Like, I want to explore this part of the world. I want to see this. I want to be a part of it. Like, it looks so dope to me that I'm elated. Like, I'm thinking, man, I might have to do 4 playthroughs, not to get achievements because I don't really do that anymore, but just to cover everything that's in the game and actually just for me to properly enjoy it so I can see how every faction plays out. And for one of the few times in my life I'm actually looking forward to, hey, I might play this game twice or 3 times. And I won't even mind it because I'm not really sweating many of the other games that I know are coming out. You know, like I think I'm going to play Dragon Quest Builders. I actually sent a request to Square Enix today to get a review copy of that. We'll probably play Final Fantasy 15, maybe. We'll see. But this, the Berserkers of Eden, that's what I'm looking forward to. But I've babbled on about my excitement enough. Let me go ahead and adjourn here. Thank all of you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Remember, the whole purpose, this Cult Classic Neo movement, all right, it's really all about friends hanging out, playing, and discussing video games together from an intellectual perspective, you know, talking about design, concepts, talking about what makes games great in terms of our personal experiences, also having a little fun, a little humor, a little comedy tossed in for good measure. It's really about friends on the internet coming together and having a fun place to come play games, like the arcades back in the day. You didn't see fist fights and trolling going on in arcades. You just saw people having fun. And that's really what I want to bring to YouTube. Not that I'm the only one bringing it. There's people like my mentor, one of my mentors, Mark Busler, who runs Classic Game Room, someone that I've looked up to for years, has been my inspiration for a long time. So looking forward to this. Looking forward to you subscribing and being a part of our community and getting in here and chatting with us. Tell me what you think about ELEX. Do you think I'm crazy? Because if you do, it's totally fine. Like, you can come in the comments and be like, dude, you're crazy. And I'll be like, cool, tell me why. There's not going to be any argument or fighting or strife here. It's all about love at the Cult Classic Neo. Love you guys. Catch you on the next one. See you then.